Now watch this carefully. We already know the syntax for writing a for loop. We are going to say for, we bring our initialization, our condition, and we bring our update. We close it, and then we bring the block of code it's supposed to execute here. Then we close our curly braces. This much we know. Okay, so how do we write nested loops? A nested loop simply means that a loop inside a loop. Now in pseudocode, how does a loop execute itself? What happens is that, let's say you initialize this as 0 and you give a condition that should be less than 5, and you give an increment parameter over here. Okay, what happens is that when the loop starts its iterations, it will start at 0, then it will come here and check if the condition is true. Is 0 less than 5? Yes. When the condition is true, it's not going to go and increment it immediately. It's rather going to come down and execute the code. Maybe you want to print something, so it's going to print it, and then when you are done, it now comes back to the update and then increment. So now the 0 is going to become 1. Then we'll now come back to the condition and check again. Is 1 less than 5? Yes, absolutely true. So it's going to come down and execute and then go and increment. Now it becomes 2. It comes to check the condition. Is 2 less than 5? Yes. So it comes down to execute and then goes to increment. It's going to do that all the way until the iteration becomes 5. So now it comes to check again. Is 5 less than 5? No. That is false. Then that is what causes the loop to break, and the rest of the statements in the code is executed. I hope that makes sense to you. So how does a nested loop work? Let's try it out. Let's try and say for, let's initialize, let's say our variable I. Let's start from 0. Okay, we bring our semicolon, we give our condition, let's say I is less than 5. Okay, we bring our semicolon, and then we say I should be incremented. You get it? Nice. Now, what happens with the nested loop is that instead of bringing a code block execution right after the loop, you don't do that. You either bring another loop. So the moment you open the curly braces, we enter with another loop. So we come again with a second inner loop and we say for, let's say there's another variable I, okay, j. So let's use j instead because we've already used I. So let's say we initialize j as 0, bring a semicolon, then we give a condition that j is also less than 5. Okay, we bring a semicolon, then we increment j. All right, then we close it, then we bring our curly braces again, and this time around we are going to bring the code block execution, the code block for the inner loop. Listen to it carefully. We are bringing the code block for the inner loop. I hope you get me. So let's say in our inner loop we want to print, let's say a character. Let's say we want to print a star. Okay, lovely. Now we have brought the code block for the inner loop, so we are going to close our curly braces for the inner loop. So you see, this and this represents the code block for the inner loop. But remember that we have opened the curly brace for the outer loop, which we have not closed yet. Now we are going to bring the statements for the outer loop. Let's say for the outer loop we want to print a new line, then we close the curly brace for the outer loop. So how is this code going to execute? Let's find out. So we start our execution from here. I equals 0. We check the condition. Let's use arrows. You know what, let me use another color. So let's see how it executes. We start our execution here. I equals 0, that's our initialization. You get it? So we are going to check if our condition is true. So we come here like this. Is I is 0 less than 5? Absolutely true. So we are not going to go down to execute our code. When we come down, we encounter another loop. Okay, fine. This loop is initializing at j equals 0. Okay, let's go check the condition. Is 0 less than 5? Absolutely true. So now we are going to come down to execute our block of code. Then we come down, we see that, okay, we are supposed to print a star. So let's go and print it. We print a star. Now what happens is that when the code, the inner loop is done executing, it doesn't come down to the outer loop. Now it now goes to check the update. Okay, so now our iteration, which is 0 because j is currently in the 0 iteration, now becomes 1 because this is an increment operator. So now that we have incremented it, we come back to check the condition again. Do you get it? So now the question we ask is 1 less than 5? Absolutely true. So it comes down to execute again. So we print another star. Then we come and increment, it becomes 2. Is 2 less than 5? Absolutely true. So we execute, we print a star. Then we come and increment again, it becomes 3. Is 3 less than 5? Absolutely true. Then we come again, it becomes 4. Is 4 less than 5? Absolutely true. Then we come again, it becomes 5. Is 5 less than 5? That is false. So what happens is that the moment the condition becomes false, the loop is going to break. When the loop breaks, boom, it comes into the execution of the outer loop code. What is the outer loop code doing? It's printing a new line. So it's now going to come and then bring the thing to a new line. But remember that all this while, when we were going through the 5 iterations of the inner loop, the outer loop was still in its first iteration. Do you get it? We have not even done the second iteration. We were all the while in the first iteration of the outer loop. Do you get it? So now we have printed the statement of the first iteration of the outer loop. So we are going to go back to our update statement. I hope you get it. Now our outer loop has become 1 because we started at 0. We are going to check our condition again. So we come and check. Is 1 less than 5? Okay, absolutely true. So we are going to come down from there to execute our code. When we come, we encounter another loop. Interesting. So we are going to start all over again. Is j we initialize here at 0. So with the moment you go around and come, the inner loop is going to start all over again. The inner loop is going to start all over again. So is j becomes 0. Is 0 less than 5? Absolutely yes. So we come down to execute our code just like we did the first time. So we print. Then we go and update. It becomes 1. We print. It becomes 2. We print. It becomes 3. We print. It becomes 4. We print. The moment it becomes 5, this condition becomes false because 5 is not less than 5. Then the loop will break again. So we come all the way to execute the statements of the outer loop. So we print a new line. Okay. Then when we print a new line, we come all the way out to update the outer loop again. Remember that now the outer loop iteration has become 2. Are you with me now? The outer loop iteration has become 2. So we are going to check the condition. Is 2 less than 5? Absolutely yes. So we are going to come down to execute the statement. We encounter another loop and now you get the hang of it. It's going to print all over again until the condition of the inner loop becomes false. When it becomes false, we break the loop and then we come and print the statement of the outer loop, which is a new line. Then we go and increment it again. Now the outer loop becomes 3 in its third iteration. So in the third iteration, we go for the inner loop, all of this again. Then we go around, print a new line. We come to the fourth iteration. Now in the fourth iteration, we print the inner loop all over again. Then we come out. Now we are in the fifth iteration of the outer loop. Is 5 less than 5? Absolutely not. So this is the point where the outer loop is going to break. So the outer loop breaks and we continue with the rest of the statements in the code. This is how nested loop works. But then there's a reason why I brought you here, because I want to explain something to you. Okay, look at this very carefully. How many times did we run the iterations of the outer loop? If you look at it, we initialize it as 0. Okay, so we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, because the condition becomes false when the iteration is 5. 5 is not part. So we run the iterations of the outer loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay, we run the iteration of the outer loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times because 0 is also part of the iteration. Now this is what I want to tell you. Whenever you see a pattern, the first thing you need to do is to count the number of rows you have. So for this pattern, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. We have 5 rows here. I hope you get it. So when you see a pattern, the first thing you want to do is that you want to run the outer loop the number of times there are rows. So because this pattern has 5 rows, we run the outer loop 5 times. We started from 0 and ran all the way to 4. So you run it 5 times. You run the outer loop the number of times there are rows. And then you run the inner loop is what controls the columns. Okay, so you run the inner loop based on the relationship of the outer and the inner loop. Let's go and understand that and use that to answer our questions.